Welcome to SilvergrainConnection, the entire world of analog photography, in a podcast. Hi, I'm Charys Schuler.
And I'm Marwan El-Mozayen from Silvergrain Classics.
And I'm Erik Schlicksbier from the German Studiokreativkommune podcast.
Welcome to our second episode of SilvergrainConnection. We are so happy to have you here and also to welcome our guests, Lena Besanova and Mirko Böddecker. Lena Besanova is a Russian-born photographer and fine art printer. She has a background in PR and media communications as well as a Master of Fine Art in photography. She has recently relocated, at least partly, due to her marriage, to our second guest today, Mirko Böddecker. Mirko started his journey with ADOX and Photo Impacts as a 19-year-old student who was frustrated that he had lost access to his favorite FK films. He decided to drive to the source in Eastern Europe and buy thousands of rolls with his civil service paycheck. When he got back, so many Germans were happy to purchase the films from him that he soon started a distribution company. Years later, Mirko found himself investing his paycheck again and the profits of Photo Impacts into another crazy scheme. This time he wanted to save as many machines and recipes as he could as he watched the film world collapsing. All these rescued components needed a home, so in 2006 he got an abandoned military building in Bad Saro, near Berlin, and started converting it into what would become the world's smallest film factory. Along the way, he acquired the ADOX name and the legendary Agfa line of products. These days, the ADOX brand is again a force to be reckoned with in the analog world, but it remains rooted in Mirko's dreams, persistence, and small team ethos. So, thank you very much for joining us, Mirko and Lena. We are so happy to have you here. So welcome.
Hi, thank you for the introduction.
Marwan has known Mirko for quite some time, I think, and we met actually in my apartment a few years ago, so that was kind of a fun story. Actually, maybe you guys would like to tell that yourselves.
How we met?
In your apartment.
Okay, where did we start the story? Where he saw me in the magazine. This guy saw me in the Photo Classic magazine, which was back then Photo Classic. Now it's Silvergrain Classics. So he saw me in the very first issue. So thanks, guys, for publishing my portfolio. He found me a husband. And afterwards, the analog dialogues happened. And for this, I have to say thank you for the entire analog community. Because as you remember how it happened, is that I just planned to visit you guys. I alone. And then I just posted on my Instagram if anyone would be willing to do a meetup. And then like 50 people responded and I said, okay, that is too much for me alone. Let's invite other people and let's do some kind of round table. And that's when Marwan invited all the people from the analog industry in Germany. And turned out that everyone agreed. Remember, Marwan, you were like, I don't know if they will agree, if we will have one or two people. And then like 8 agreed. And that's where I met this wonderful man.
Yeah, I'm still surprised that I actually talked some sense in this interview before. After seeing Lena, did I actually or didn't I?
I don't remember anything. I was so stressed.
Well, the people liked it. I think there was a lot of sense in it.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming and making this possible. Well.
Afterwards, the people that we had hosted for the meetup came over to my apartment because I live right around the corner from our studio. Yeah. And I just remember seeing Mirko staring at you, and I thought, oh my goodness me. And then it turns out later that my instincts were not so far off. But yeah, we obviously, that was a fun story to start off with. But we want to hear a lot about ADOX and Photo Impacts.
There's one thing I just would like to say in advance. The thing on the 1st of April where Lena is a drill instructor in a Silvergrain Classic Bootcamp is not true. It was a joke. So please stop applying for that.
I am Lena Besanova, and I will be teaching the intensive darkroom course at the Silvergrain Classics Bootcamp. The program is designed in a way to give participants a real printer's life experience. They're going to start with setting up a darkroom in a bunker. If it's it sounds challenging to them, they're not the right people to be in this program. The program starts with 8 hours of printing a day, and it increases gradually by 1 hour until it reaches 13 hours. Printing sessions will have no breaks. Food gets delivered to the darkroom. It will be sandwiches and pizza. If the participants want smoking breaks, well, it's a good opportunity for them to quit.
And also we shot this movie in Switzerland, right?
Yeah, we shot it in Switzerland.
In the ADOX factory in Switzerland.
Yes.
Where we don't have space to accommodate so many people. No, and the bunker is very, very
we
small.
don't even have a bunker.
We have a bunker there.
Do we?
Yeah, it's for the pipes.
So Mirko, what's the news? What's the news from ADOX?
Well, actually, during the pandemic, we have not been as unsuccessful in bringing new projects as we thought. We more or less didn't go to Switzerland for 1 year and focused fully on the factory in Germany. So there we finally finished the polywarm-tone emulsions. And since we couldn't coat them, we decided to bring the liquid emulsion product first, because this we can totally make in Germany. We don't have to go to Switzerland to coat it. That doesn't mean that it has stopped. We were there last week. Was it last week? No, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago we were in Switzerland, and the machine is running again.
As any machine, if you don't use it, it falls apart. And this machine, it was not used for a year. So obviously some parts kind of you fire it up and then it's just...
Yeah,
and,
if we extend this podcast by another 3 hours, I can start reporting about all the things that can possibly happen.
I think most of the people out there can't even imagine how huge the undertaking of making flawless films in photographic paper is. Yeah. Can you give us a brief tour of the production process?
Oh,
well, I always say that it starts with that film is sensitive to anything you can possibly think of.
Yeah.
It's sensitive to dust, to static electricity, to light, to temperature, to high temperature, to cold temperature, to humidity, to dry air. It's sensitive to everything that you can imagine.
Even to smells.
Even to smells, even to perfumes in the air, like slightest amounts of sulfur. I mean, of course, making anything that is light sensitive is possible. You can, if you do it in your kitchen, you can get up to 20 ASA maybe, or 15 ASA or 6 ASA, orthochromatic, not panchromatic. You can get to all of this, but then good luck coating it flawlessly. That is tremendously difficult, and it's so many steps. First you precipitate the raw emulsion, then you have to wash it, then you have to add ripening agents, then you have to remelt it before coating, then you're adding the sensitizers, then you are adding the hardeners, then you have to get it bubble free, pollution free onto the cascade. Then it has to be coated evenly across the entire...
No stripes, no bubbles.
Your eye is so sensitive, you don't imagine. This is the most complex coating process that exists in the world. It has to run at 30 meters a minute. If you go slower, you can't get a quality film. Well, a little bit slower, but not much slower. All of this wet load is shooting into the drying tunnel.
And which has to be dust-free.
Which has to be completely dust-free. It has to have controlled temperature. Nothing must touch the film, of course. And it's going so fast, you can't rewind it before it's dry. So this drying tunnel has to be long, very long. The web travels here. Then I'm going to show you this, where it's prepped. Then it goes up to the coating head, then it goes to the stiffing section, which is blowing cold air to stiffen the gelatin. This is the first drying, and then it winds through here. And this is all drying, and then it arrives back there.
It is a small machine.
We have, for a coating machine, it's a miniature machine. It's a big machine, but you know how big the machine from Agfa or from Kodak is? Well, it's several blocks, like New York blocks.
New York blocks.
Yeah, these things.
I did not understand anything.
Black and white film, we're talking about 2 to 3 layers. And if you want to do color film, the minimum you have to do is about 6 to 9 layers, and a good quality color film today is up to 14 layers.
And that's the answer to people who say, oh, why don't you do color film?
Yeah, well, I mean, theoretically we could on this machine, and with theoretically going by machines we could, but by people and laboratories and infrastructure. We cannot, at least not a good one.
So to all our multi-millionaires who are listening out there, this is the place to invest right now. This is the man to send your money to.
Not really. No. Because look, an investor wants his money back. You cannot write a reliable business plan because there are too many variables. There's too much in the unknown. So if you are talking about a Mäzen, I don't know the English word for it, that is the different story. Someone who's just throwing the money and forgets about it. That's doable, of course, and then we can see how far we get. But if it's about a true investment, very difficult.
Yes. Well, I guess we need the Medici to come back for you then.
A little bit, yeah. We were thinking about it because we could start like finding investors, and actually we had investors approach us, and every time it was like, it's better not to, because right now the company is growing organically. Every new person that comes in, there is not anymore the old industry where you could simply hire from another company someone, or take someone from university who studied exactly film engineering, exactly chemistry for film production. You don't have those people anymore. You have to teach them from zero. So who you're hiring is a general chemist who probably did something completely else, or an engineer who did something else, And every new person that we take in, we have to give personal attention, a lot of personal attention, training those people from zero. Because we can have we have brilliant chemists, but they were like, how do filters work, or like
what's multigrade. Even if we had the money, we wouldn't have the people, and even if we would have people, we wouldn't have the people to train them.
Yes.
So scaling this back up in short time,
it's impossible. We have to go one person at a time. And imagine if an investor comes and just throws billions at us. Even if he says, okay, I don't really want this money.
It was billions.
Well, okay. But no one will. Everyone will come and say, here is your 10 million. That's what they're gonna do.
That's something we hear from all over the industry, not only films, but also the people who are dealing with cameras are saying approximately the same thing. We have to train a new generation of people if we want to keep film and film cameras available for everybody. And that's something that just keeps coming up. And I think it's an incredibly valuable thing that you're doing for everyone. So just take this opportunity to say thank you again for that. It's great.
So that's one key element to this entire setup. It's not about making money. It's not about making color film at the fastest pace. My head is usually 2, 3, 4 years in advance. That's what I'm thinking about, where I'm in my fantasy, where I want the company to be in the future, and I'm constantly pushing in this direction. And so sometimes if people ask me, when do you have this available, I can only say I'm working on it.
Regarding these expectations, for example, what one often hears is ADOX is very well positioned in the 35mm segment and shines in the large format film area with the fact that the CHS 102 is available in an incredible number of sizes. Why is currently nothing available in the medium format, is often asked.
Basically, the answer is short. With the 35mm line is running, all the various sheet film formats, it doesn't matter. If you can make one format, you can make them all. But 120 is an entire line. And this line is currently not running.
Okay, ADOX has a brand, which is maybe bigger than the company is. The company is under 10 people? Under 10 people.
ADOX, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what it means in reality is that, okay, we have a mechanic. And today he has a choice. Either to keep working on the 120 machine, and bringing it forward, or there is a thermostat breaking in the emulsion production, he has to run and fix it. We don't have 10 mechanics who are sitting there and thinking what to do.
But there must be things that you haven't talked about right now. You have all these machines that were built for production capacities that are so much larger than what you're using them for. That must have also its own problems.
When I tried saving analog, I was, of course, going to all the factories and for example, Agfa's big coating machine K, it was 2 buildings. You didn't even have to look at it from the inside to make the decision that you're not taking this machine. From this machine, we took just the coating table and the coating head and a few hundred rollers. For the emulsion production at Agfa's, it was 1,000 liters. That means you're pouring in every precipitation, you're pouring silver nitrate of the value of a small family home. We focused on the research machines so that we have we get like the smallest unit that was possible of doing this at all. And in Eastern Europe, we could actually find some medium-sized lines, which are good for our market size, but they are very old. In some areas, we actually really have machines which were for a bigger market, and they're over-engineered. And we have now like the 120 machine, and we're having trouble to keep them operational. And on other ends, our machines are too small.
Like the
kettle we have for the polywonton. With these kettles, we can never make a paper at a market price, but we can make a paper at all. That's the main point. And we know how to do it. We learned how to do it. And of course, with this know-how also comes the know-how and the possibility to scale it up to the next level. But this has to be built because the intermediate level existed nowhere. It was always research. And then it went to giant production. Yeah. And what we now need is exactly the middle.
And it just doesn't exist.
Well, our coating machine in Switzerland is a good example for this.
It's a big research machine.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it's a big research machine, but from a company who had splendid days and lots of cash. So they decided to build the nicest R&D machine in the world, just because they could afford it, and this was like so overdone for an R&D machine that it actually is a nice small-sized production machine.
Yeah, what into this decision to start with Super 8? Because we just in our magazine and the people we talk to, we know it's really, really popular.
Well, the Super 8 we already did. There was a company called GK Film who was doing this in cooperation with us. All those machines were actually our machines. So those films made by GK Film, they were actually made on our machines with our know-how, but physically done in the locations of GK Film, because at this time we didn't have enough rooms to do this. And then we had to take those machines back home and we just put them into storage, but we actually already knew how to do it. So it was an easy project to get them back into operations.
So Lina, I wanted to actually ask you, since we have a break in the conversation, your life has really changed dramatically in the last couple of years. You were saying how much you've learned since you first went into the factory and just everything. But I know that you have your own very successful brand. I'd also like to ask you just very directly, do you have any conflict of interest? Because I know a lot of the times you do review products and some of those products are going to be ADOX products.
Of course, the moment we started dating, I didn't want it to go public immediately because that is exactly what I feared, that people will stop trusting me anymore. And honestly, I would maybe become critical of someone who gets married to a CEO of the company. It's like the wife of the CEO of Mercedes, and if she does car reviews, how biased is she? I immediately understood that would be a problem for me, and I wanted to prepare grounds, and I wanted to keep really myself as separate as possible from ADOX. First, actually no one in the company understood it. I was doing, for instance, the Ilford paper review, and I did a very good review, and some people had questions like, why did I even agree to do this? And why did I do it so well? But I'm not gonna lie, if I have a good product in my hands and it's from competition, and also I don't see it as competition. The market is big. It's big enough for all the players. And I told Ilford directly that, hey guys, you know that it's not yet public, but I'm dating Mirko Böddecker. Is this a problem for you? They said, no, of course, it's so cool. He's a good guy. Like, congratulations to you both. So are you doing the review? I feel kind of sometimes weird when there are ADOX products that are like, for instance, the FX39 developer. I don't even know why I tried it. I think it was the only developer that was there. I used to use some other developers, other company developers. And I just tried this FX39. I had no expectations. But then... it worked magic with Ilford Delta films. I was like, wow, why didn't I use it before?
It's a Geoffrey Crawley formula.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was personally here at the age of 93, on the stick already, and helped us implement it. This guy is really a legend. He knows everything. He knew. Unfortunately, he passed away. Yeah. He knew everything about the photo industry. He knew everything about first color developers, and he was a walking dictionary.
See, I didn't even know that, what you told me now. Yeah, but this is like my favorite developer ever, and whoever I recommend it to, everyone comes back to me and says, wow. Like, wow, how did I live before? Too bad it's not in powder, because I prefer powder products because I can carry them around easier. But again, the ADOX fixer, oh, that thing changed my life. You should try this. You know, it mixes amazing. You just put it in water and it's dissolved. It's absolute magic. When I saw it for the first time, I said, I'm not using any other fixer. I just like this experience way too much. And of course, it's in powder. But then there are other products which I'm like, bah, like paper developers. I don't know. I'm using my Ilford multigrade developer and I'm so happy with it. Mirko has a hard time converting me to the neutral developer. I'm just not doing it.
We're still doing some tests here. No, but it's also with your films. I mean, you shoot Ilford.
Yes.
And of course, I mean, for me, it's also absolutely no problem because Photo Impacts, the company which I founded first, is one of the biggest Ilford dealers in the world. I also love Ilford. I mean, I got invested into the Ilford factory in Switzerland. Half of the company's history by now is of ADOX is Ilford. I'm just happy for anyone who is there doing good business and putting out good quality products. And if Lena reviews them, then I'm even happier.
Yeah.
As you mentioned it, is the market still big enough that companies are interested in researching new innovations in this area?
It's a matter of complexity and price. So the market is big enough to sustain what is there, and actually at present manufacturers cannot keep up with the demand. If you want to make a new quality silver halide product, you need an engineering team of 10 to 20 people, and you need to put them on this task for God knows how long, maybe 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years.
You have to get involved in synthesis of raw materials, and you have to go all the time, all the way, until the layer build up. It's a financial question. Will you ever recover your costs of really developing a new product?
So if you were to think about a product that you would really like to make, and leaving possible, impossible costs, everything aside, what would be like the project of your heart? What would you really like to do if it were possible?
For me, it's easy. Yeah. I would like to make so in Ilford. There was a lot of R&D done on the Cibachrome film. Actually, while it was still Ciba-Geigy, they wanted to conquer the world. And most people don't know this. I don't know, Marwan, you know, but the Cibachrome process is a black and white process. So these are color films which are as easy to develop as black and white films, and they come out directly as a slide, as a positive. If this was possible to bring to a decent speed, and it could be developed at home as easy as a black and white film, and it would be a color positive, that would be a crusher for the new market. We have all the emulsions, we have all the necessary research documents, we even have the ingredients. We have the sensitizers, we have the dyes, it's all there. And we have the machines and the factory. So if anyone could do it at a decent price, it would be us.
Yeah, Lena, something you're missing from the...
I'm just happy with everything. Mirko is much more of like a dreamer and pusher. Thanks to people like him, we are moving forward. I'm just like, okay, the only film that we have is this, and the only two developers are those. So what can we do the best out of this?
But isn't it that maybe Mirko comes from a generation where things were new available, and maybe Lena is a little that generation where you say, okay, we were used to used equipment because that was there was no new equipment when you started.
No, there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. When I started, there was no even analog photography resurgence. There was no Instagram even. I couldn't even know if anyone else does analog photography. I knew nothing. There was nothing. I was like, I'm the only idiot in the world doing analog probably. But somewhere else was another guy doing something similar.
I was just still collecting all those machines, not using them.
Yes. I'm just imagining buying such a big coating machine, or let's say a coating table that is tons of weight, and then you got it. Okay, what is the next day? You got up in the morning. Okay, oh my God, what did I do? Or something like that?
That was absolutely impossible. It was all going too fast. This was really going boom, 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 boom. I couldn't fly as fast to those factories to check what we need. And then immediately they wanted me to get it out and transport it. And that's how I bought this military building. I literally bought this within 2 weeks.
The one that is now
the stuff was already on the trucks, and it cost me money to store it. This was all done with not much thinking. There was absolutely no time to make a proper plan. And still today, I mean, I can only say this was the best I could do, but with today's knowledge, of course, I would have also bought other components.
You must have people you're talking at morning at breakfast, and someone says, I'm going to buy a coater. It's a few tons of steel, and I have to have a place for it. And at the moment, it's on a truck. I mean, the surrounding of a person is also very important. I mean, that must have been.
If this had been important, there would be no ADOX right now. Of course, everyone was declaring me nuts.
Yeah.
But also everyone was kind of saying, well, whatever he did so far was kind of on the successful side, and maybe we just don't understand all he's doing and just. Let him do it. It's his money, who cares?
But really, I asked Mirko the same question. I was like, how? Well, now he has me. But back then, when he did not have me...
and she understands.
Because also no one understood why I'm doing analog photography.
Yeah, exactly, it's the same. Exactly the same, yeah. Why is a young, good-looking girl going into this... into old man's business?
With Mirko, I asked him, you went for a much longer time without any support. And honestly, I got a lot of support online. The moment I started being on YouTube and on Instagram, I got so much feedback from the community. And that's what kept me going.
And I actually got Gegenwind. On the forums back then, it was like, this is all a Potemkin's village. This doesn't exist. They don't make anything. This is all not true. For example, you say, guys, we managed to make our first 35mm film. Here it is. So no cheers.
No.
Why is there no 120 film? Where are the sheet films? Why is it only 25 ASA? It's much too expensive and I can't find it in my local store. And I'm like, Now it's much better. This was really in the beginning. This was like 2004, 5, 6-ish, something like this, and maybe till 2009. It's all changing. It's becoming much more pleasant.
We see that in the magazine, that our customer base is really very young, and we also are seeing a big influx in more women who are, especially young women, who are very much into film photography. Do you see that outside of Berlin, outside of the Berlin store as well?
This is not only for Berlin.
Yeah, in every photo store we go to, or to any partners we go to, they always there is always like some kind of woman in the position of management. Always. Yeah. I don't remember like a place where we went and there was no woman there, And everyone, is more on the younger side.
Yeah, of course. I mean, but that's very important because also we try to employ females.
Yeah, but for the company, it's a little bit. It of course is more difficult to get an engineer girl.
Yeah.
Also, if we were in Berlin,
we have a female chemist.
We managed. Yes, the polyworm-tone emulsion is made by a girl. Yes.
And we, by the way, we're still looking desperately for mechatronics.
Yes.
As many as we can get our hands on.
But you have to mind that we're not
Berlin
in
is
Berlin.
A cool city.
Berlin is a cool city, but we're not in Berlin. It's a city next to Berlin, and that's like an additional layer of difficulty. but seriously,
you have to come
cut
first,
that out
and
for you.
then we tell them this.
But this is like an additional layer.
It's 55 minutes.
Difficulty to get young people employed there.
Yeah.
So the chemist who came to us, this like super young guy, but he likes smaller cities. So he actually moved from a different part of the country to work with us. Yeah. He's the one who made the XT3 developer.
No, I think it's really it's very encouraging not only that the younger people are getting involved, but that there's also the gender balance is getting even out a little bit with the next generations. As you were saying before, the film photography used to have this reputation for being kind of for old men.
The other time we had this discussion as well, and he was like, yeah, but those old men, there were young men when they started.
Yeah.
You know, they were all young guys. It's just afterwards there was a giant gap.
Yeah.
So it's not their own fault. It's actually, we should be grateful to them that they stuck with analog photography.
Exactly.
They
completely saved us over those years.
Yes.
It's just how it is.
Yeah.
In a certain time it was like this, and now it's different again, and that's what I wanted to point out.
I think it's been really, really useful for the two of you to come and let everyone know, not only just us talking to you, but all of our listeners know what's going on behind the scenes. And I think there are a lot of people who have their expectations still from, the 1990s.
Well, in the 1990s, films were extremely expensive. Just tell you
they were more
someone who experienced the 1990s.
Than today.
Yes.
Yeah. And we're operating on a much smaller scale. Well, actually now I think Charys is now almost approaching 10 euros. So then this doesn't hold true anymore. But when I held my speech in Helsinki 3 years ago, the average film was 4 euros. And when I was a child, it was 8 Deutschmarks. We can see clearly from those non-supplies of color films by Fuji and Kodak that a film is too cheap. It is simply not interesting to them to make a $2.99 color film, and that's why they don't. And I'm also not saying that the film must cost $50, but this $2.99 or $1.99 or $3.99, it's just
and even $4.99.
It's $4.99. It's simply outrageous. It can only work if you keep running down your infrastructure, which it includes human resources.
You cannot hire new
and
people.
We are all now you cannot train new people with this kind of money.
No.
You cannot build a new machine with this kind of money. You cannot build a new building. You cannot engineer it. You cannot plan it. All of these costs are not in such a film price.
So we are really grateful to those people who actually don't complain about price raises, and there are people who understand it. There are more and more of those people who actually even write online that, hey guys, but do we want this all to continue?
But if you come back to the 1930s when the first color film were released, I think these were high-tech products, and it was kind of like people could afford 2 rolls a year.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most important thing about shooting on film is you are valuing the camera you're using, you're valuing the material you're using. And and value is also seen in money. That's the next point,
Mm-hmm.
That was exactly the point that I was going to make. And I think it's a great point to wrap up on. So, Lina and Mirko, thank you so very much for joining us today. It's been a blast speaking with you, as always. And otherwise, we hope that you will all stay tuned and tune into our next episodes. So until then, goodbye and talk to you then.
Bye-bye.
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 Thanks for being there. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Let's take a screenshot. It looks good right now.
Wait, let me take a screenshot. Cheese!